I one time kicked my son's toy car down the hallway, and it came back at me with the exact same force. It didn't bounce off a wall and no one was down at the other end. I called my parents and had them come spend the night because I was so freaked out. In my previous house, I would come home to every single kitchen cabinet wide open. I would sometimes wake up and see someone typing at my computer, only to have no one be there when I walked into the living room. We also lived in an apartment while searching for a house to buy, and it had a closet that our cats were afraid of. I hated going in there and usually kept the door shut. For a solid week, something would bang and scratch from the inside. The cats were on our bed, staring at the door. We wound up breaking our lease and renting elsewhere temporarily. I definitely believe angels exist. I was once in a horrible car accident that had me spinning across 4 lanes of traffic. I can vividly remember looking directly at the traffic that I should have been hitting, and it was neatly stopped in every lane. My car finally landed on the side of the freeway, and a man unrolled my window from the outside and told me I was fine. He kept telling me I was okay and not to worry. He said he'd be right back. When I turned to look for him, he was gone. There was no car pulled over behind me, and no one to be found. To this day, I believe he was a guardian angel.
My family moved to this standard upscale suburban home after roughing it for a couple of years to save up. We also got a deal on the home because it was a model home before it was ours, like had all the fake furniture, to show off the neighborhood homes. Anyways, it had this loft area with 2 stairwells that go up to it, one in the front and one in the back. You could pretty much hear everything from this loft since it was so open. One day, my 2 best friends, guy and a girl, are hanging out in the loft. We were in HS and they were horny, and always all over each other, whether I was in the room or not. We were watching TV and I'd get up to take a piss. When I left, they were all up on each other. When I came back, they were on different ends of the couch. They had gotten into a fight, so I asked what was up. "Your little sister is home," the dude says. My face turned sheet white. "What's wrong?" the girl asked. I asked them what made them think that. They said they heard her. I am sort of freaking out at this point. "No one's here," I say. We checked the house and I'm right. Well, it turns out that before it was a model home, a family lived there, and a little girl had been playing in the loft, but had climbed on the railing and fell to her death below. My 2 best friends swear to this day that they heard what they thought was my sister laugh and run up the stairs, hitting her hands on each step like she was running up on all 4s. I never had any encounters, other than the fact that right next to where she landed was the house's central intercom. We had an intercom system in every room that you could play music through or talk to each other. Every so often at night at the same time you'd wake up to the intercom button being pressed, and just the blank sound of static airways like someone was holding down the button but no one was speaking. My room was on the 3rd floor, and I'd have to walk down to the bottom to the main unit and turn it off there. I always thought I'd see her.
Last year, I was staying in a hotel with my mom. One of the nights as I was laying in bed, I noticed a human silhouette maybe 2 meters away from me. I figured it was just a shadow, so I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't. I turned the light on, and obviously it disappeared. But when I shut off the lights again, it came back. I tried to convince myself that it was just a shadow. But trust me when I say there was nothing in that room that could have made a shadow like that. I looked around the room several times. It also occurred to me that the shadow weren't there the previous nights, and nothing had been moved around. It looked just like a human silhouette. I never believed in ghosts, but right then and there I was terrified. I was too scared to look at it, so I turned around and eventually fell asleep. I told my mom about it the next morning and she just shrugged it off. She said I was just imagining things. Fair enough. That shadow weren't there the next night, or the next. A few days after we had gotten back home, my mom was doing something in the kitchen, and I was just sitting there studying. Without turning around, my mom said, "Do you remember that shadow of a person you saw at the hotel?" I said, "Yeah, my mom just said I saw it too." My blood turned to ice. Mom didn't want to admit that she also saw it. I thought that she was sleeping. Because she didn't want to freak me out. I'm convinced that if ghosts exist, I saw one that night. My mom thinks it was the ghost of her best friend, who had committed suicide just a few days prior. Mom had spent hours earlier that evening writing her a long letter for some kind of closure. Maybe her best friend also wanted to say goodbye.
When I was like 24 or so, myself and my 2 best girlfriends took a road trip down the Pacific Coast Highway in Cali. At one point in the evening, we stopped for gas and I saw a guy in a CU sitting in the side of the road hitchhiking. Myself being an army veteran, but also apparently being naive, felt bad for the guy. So I discussed it with my friends and we agreed to offer him a ride. The plan was that I would go and talk to him and kind of verify that he was actually a veteran before letting him get in the car. Naturally, this doesn't work out as we planned. I pulled over and started to get out, and he had already opened the hatchback on the car and thrown his pack in. Before I could even get around the car to talk to him, he had already jumped in the back seat. We had all already divided up pocket knives and pepper spray between us, like we were ready to murder this guy if he showed any ounce of aggression. Dude was about our age, mid-20s or so. He was high, but was a pretty nice dude. Definitely not a veteran. He introduced himself as Flowers. Immediately toked up once in the car, which none of us were comfortable with, but he did offer to share. Problem was that he didn't really have a destination other than south. And we still had like 7 hours of driving ahead of us and didn't want to take him the whole way. I think there was a good amount of texting back and forth between passengers, but I was driving and just knew that I wanted this guy out after about an hour or so. He had literally done nothing. I was just terrified. Once I realized I had just picked up a stranger at night, so I pulled up to a random restaurant in the middle of Big Sur and said, "Isn't Heather supposed to be meeting us here?" The other girls played along. We all got out, threw his stuff out and jumped back in and drove off. We got extremely lucky, and I know that, and I have never picked up another hitchhiker and never will. Also, we found his sign in my back seat afterwards, and I still have it for years later to remind me not to be stupid.
I lived in a house with 4 girls and 4 animals in college. One night, I happened to have the house to myself, which was fabulous because I had a paper to write. So I'm in my bed with my laptop, and I hear a scratch at the door. It's the dog Miko, and he's shaking and whining. As soon as I open the door, the 2 cats, Ralph and Beaner, streak in behind him and jump on my bed. I squeeze in between all of them, and I resume my studying. Suddenly, Ralph's hair stands on end, and Miko starts to whine. Beaner's claws are digging into my legs as soon as I hear footsteps upstairs in the hallway. It's a pretty short hallway, probably about 20 feet, but the footsteps keep walking, and walking, and walking past where the outer wall of the house into the next door neighbor's house. Miko starts growling when the footsteps turn around, and I hear them sprinting back in our direction, and then a door slams shut. By this point, my heart is racing, and Miko is barking up a storm. So I grab a baseball bat and walk upstairs. Nobody was home but me and the animals.
Okay, here's the school story. This was a sort of string of several incidents that climaxed in one big thing that got us all sent home for the day. First, the school is pretty old, built during the British occupation and actually contained secret exits and stuff. Certain parts of the school were permanently closed, which of course led to rumors among the students. My favorite was that a deformed kid lived there, forever shunned by the school. Second, we all witnessed a shaken, crying janitor being escorted out by some of the teachers who were trying to calm her down. We were all told she was ill, but the rumor was that she saw something she shouldn't have seen in one of the stairwells near the locked area. Third, the ever-popular toilet where all the boys went to secretly have a smoke. It was a boys' school. In the same week as the janitor's breakdown, there was a huge gathering at the toilet, and we saw teachers yelling at kids to get back to their classrooms. The toilet was then shut down. The rumor? One of the boys was taking a dump, and when he came out of the cubicle, he saw several wet, long hairs plastered on the wall. Think The Grudge. The grand finale, someone got possessed. One of the boys went into a frenzy and had to be held down. He was speaking in a very strange dialect that was quite alien in the area, and strangest of all, in a woman's voice. His parents and an ambulance had to be called. Sometime later, we were all told that we could leave for the day. More rumor. After we left, the school got a priest or medicine man to cleanse the school. I honestly have no time for these superstitions, but I'm surrounded with them, so it can get interesting. Also a day off school. Thanks, ghosts.